We know that 92% of consumers want to work with someone they deem authentic versus inauthentic. That is hard-hitting scientific data. So if you are showing up on social media trying to play the part of real estate agent or play the part of lender or play the part of CEO versus just being authentically who you are, you've already failed. So those are the two most major things when we deal with personal brand and identifying those who are successful at it.
Today's guest has worked with some of the biggest names in real estate, but before becoming a brand strategist, he got his start on Broadway. His name is Tyler Mount, and he's as real as they come. Tyler's journey is a perfect example of how our careers can evolve in ways we never expected. In this episode, we dive into what makes a personal brand stand out, the most common mistakes agents make online, and why authenticity always wins. Whether you're building a brand from scratch or leveling up, this conversation is full of insight and great takeaways. All right, well, Tyler Mount, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited to have you. And I've got to tell everyone that I didn't know this when you were actually going to be on the show, but in early May, you and I had the chance to actually meet live in New York City. And here's what I'm going to tell you that I really appreciate about you is that, you know, it was sort of last minute because I was coming in and I didn't know when I was going to be available. And I basically gave you a 5-hour window to meet me for a drink. And this is what I love about Tyler and all of you. You love these friends where he was like, no problem. We're going to make it work. I'll meet you at 5 o'clock at, where did we go? The Smith?
Yeah, we went to the Smith, my favorite local haunt.
Told me how to get there. We only had about 55 minutes to be exact because he had to get me to my next dinner. But it was one of the funnest 55 minutes. I got to learn so much about you in that period of time. So.
Oh, well, I appreciate it. I am always highly regimented and highly scheduled, but I have to have some room for flexibility. And I always love working with people who are like down, just like down in general.
Make it work.
For a cocktail. Very important.
Make it work. And the other thing that I learned about you, and I think you learn so much about people and their tattoos. You have you had 2 on one hand, 1 on the other. Those are the ones that I saw and that we talked about, right?
Correct.
But in that 55 minutes, you told me all about these tattoos, and it was like, I got a glimpse into your life, into your friendships, and I think that's pretty incredible. I have no tattoos, so you didn't get to get any details on me, so...
I didn't.
Tattoos in the making.
Yeah, absolutely. We might have to detail my tattoo journey here in a little bit.
I love it. I love it. All right. So we are here to talk a bit or about all things social media and to get an understanding about you. And I am also going to have to say full disclosure, I have had the awesome opportunity for the last, 3.5, almost 4 months working with Tyler as a client. I've brought him on to help me with all things social media, but also all things podcast. So here we are, right? Real time in motion. We hope that we don't screw this up too badly. But it's been a thrill. And so I'm excited to talk a little bit about what you are doing, how you could help others out there similar to me who are on this journey of all things social media, all things brand, all things growing a business, right? So agents do know you for working with some of the biggest industry names. We've got Ryan Serhant, right? But we also have Spencer Raskoff that you have helped with social media and helping them both take off. But before you started your company, Henry Street Creative, you were a Tony Award-winning producer. We talked a little bit about that in May too. Tell me about your path from Broadway to brand strategist, because that has a lot to do with where you are today.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it does have a lot to do with where I am today, but I'll be honest, right? And what I've learned in my career is true with everyone's career. Nothing is ever really linear. If you had told me, Tyler, you have to achieve what you've achieved today, I would have never put the roadmap together that I accidentally took. Growing up in super small town Texas, I always loved theater. I was the black sheep, let's say. I had a great childhood. I'm not painting this like horrific photo, but what's important to remember is like my love was theater and performing and storytelling, and I pursued that professionally both in college and outside of university. I moved to New York City in 2013, nearly 13 years ago, to pursue a career on Broadway, and I was fortunate enough to do 5 Broadway shows as a stage manager, which was a really fantastic full circle, my dreams are coming true moment for, again, that small little boy who grew up in Texas. I did that for about 3 to 5 years. And it's interesting because when you're working on Broadway, even people who are quote unquote working on Broadway and quote unquote successful still aren't probably working 52 weeks a year, right? Shows last, if you're lucky, 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, right? It is very rare you're on Broadway for an extended amount of time, much less over a year. And so in between these shows, I still had to wait tables and I still had to figure out a way to pay the bills. And what I started to learn was in life, we oftentimes wait for permission. We wait for a boss, a recruiter, a colleague to give us an opportunity, when in reality, we are capable of creating our own path and creating our own work. So that's what I did. I created a silly little Broadway vlog that happened to find incredible success. And that really catapulted me into what I now know to be brand strategy. My first client was me. I really focused on my social media and I was enthralled with the analytics. I was enthralled with best practice and optimizing and doing the best that I could. And then from there, I started, traditional corporate America jobs that gave me incredible training and incredible experience, and ultimately culminated with me starting my organization, Henry Street Creative, which has led me to represent and help build the personal brands of some of the most prolific people in our space.
Yeah, I love that. And what I also really like about your story is that when you came to New York or went to New York, I think, and wanted to be on Broadway and be on shows, you wanted to be on the stage. You wanted to be kind of out in front of the lights. And that didn't, let's be honest, that didn't necessarily work out as planned, but then you pivoted, right? You took this shift and kind of said, I still love this, right? So, and I think this is kind of what ended up helping you realize that sometimes behind the operation and behind the scenes can be just as exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Amy, you know this about me, but I love being in charge. Okay. And so, like, as an actor, you're never in charge. You show up on someone else's schedule, you're waiting for someone else to cast you, you do what the director or the stage manager says. And that just created so much stress for me. And I'll also be honest, I didn't say one day, like, oh, I'm getting all of these opportunities as an actor, I'm going to stop. Right. I was pounding the pavement and I didn't like it. And I really battled with what I thought was giving up on my dream, when in reality, I've learned that dreams change and that's fine. And so what I found, which was just like a much more authentic representation of who I am and what I was put on this earth to do, was stage management. I was, along with a very, very, capable team, the people who ran the show when the director went home, right?
Yeah.
And so it was a really fantastic opportunity that didn't cause me the stress and the grief of having to potentially perform 8 times a week. I instead got to run the show 8 times a week. And that was a really incredible learning experience and set me up for the career I have today.
Yeah. And I do love that after you left there, you did go into corporate America. And I appreciate that you had said, because I feel very much the same way, that being in that corporate environment really helped you understand structure, process, a lot of things that I think are incredibly important, because then when you do go out on your own, right, you supporting brand development and creating this agency, but even for all of our real estate agents, right, suddenly figuring out, how am I going to run a business like a CEO? I think having those opportunities are super critical.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade my understanding of corporate America for anything, because keep in mind, the majority of my clients are running large corporations, right? I am so familiar with the bureaucratic red tape. I'm so familiar with multiple stakeholders. I'm so familiar with checks and balances. Whereas someone who hasn't worked in corporate America isn't any less qualified, but they just have a different vantage point in the way that they run their business and in the way that they help others run their business.
Yeah, agreed. So, real estate, how did you really kind of get into this niche though, when you're looking at, helping people with brand identity? Because real estate agents are not the only ones that need this help, but it seems to be that you're gravitating to this very fun profession.
Yeah. So look, the fact of the matter is clear. Any human being, whether you're the CEO of a publicly traded Fortune 1 company, okay, or you're an independently operating real estate agent, or dare I say, owner of a auto mechanic shop, right? Everyone can benefit and will benefit from personal brand.
Yep.
How I fell into real estate is half intentional and half by accident. My first job in college was being a licensed executive assistant for a really prominent brokerage in Austin, Texas. And that is where I really started to understand the business of real estate from a young age. I unknowingly was doing all of their marketing, right? And I wouldn't say that I was a world-class expert, but I've written hundreds of contracts. I've worked with the best in the industry from a young age. And I've always really just naturally been drawn to real estate. I like expensive things. I like beautiful things. I like helping really successful people become more and more and more successful. And so that's just something I've accidentally had experience in. After I transitioned out of Broadway, I worked at NBC, which is the definition of corporate America. I had an incredible, incredible time at NBC. And then I transitioned back to a really prominent real estate developer here in New York City, where I got my feet wet again in corporate America, but in real estate again. Again, helping him, really focus on his personal brand and the brand equity associated with his properties and his projects. COVID happened, right? And I transitioned out of that role. And I fell into two clients who happened to be accidentally the leaders in real estate. My first client was Ryan Serhant. My second client was Spencer Raskoff. The rest is history, right? Like, where do you really go from there? And so it is much easier to get a job or work with additional clients when you have that, that proof of concept under your belt. And so I have just found myself being referred to as like the leader of personal brand in real estate. And I wear that badge really, really proudly.
Yeah, I mean, it's lean into it, right? I mean, this is the journey that you're taking, and I am going to say that real estate agents are a whole lot of fun. So, you're enjoying your time, I'm sure, with the clients that you're working with. They don't always know what they want. It's probably sometimes like herding cats, but I think what a great entrepreneurial industry to be in and to be able to really help people. So I want to ask you, so theater into personal brand, how do you feel like your experience and all the things that you were doing in theater helps you with your kind of everyday opportunity to interact with folks like myself in real estate, agents who are trying to grow a career, some people who are opening up, their own independent companies. How do you feel like that's really parlayed into you being helpful to these people?
Well, look, we have to look at it on two sides. The first side, my experience working professionally in the theater at the highest echelons of the industry prepared me to be a business owner, first and foremost. I deeply understand speed. I understand efficiency. I understand being a relatable, relationship oriented human being. My clients are the best in the world and they trust me implicitly because they have to. And I don't take that for granted. So that's on one side. The other side, in terms of what that skill set does in order to uniquely position me to do what I do, is the fact that I am a very accomplished storyteller. And I am not saying my taste is better, but I have a really, really strong taste level that has yet to, steer me in the wrong direction. And what do I mean by that? Well, look, as business owners, again, whether you're a real estate agent or a lender or you own a mechanic body shop, okay, marketing is about perception, right? And perception is storytelling. And storytelling is about making someone feel something. And so, two campaigns for the same exact real estate agent, okay? One that's like, I have 25 years of experience, okay? Fine. The other really talking about luxury real estate redefined, making it feel similar to a Nike or an Under Armour commercial is going to, without question, scientifically produce better results. And so, my unique vantage point, not just from the black and white scientific data that goes into marketing, which I now understand having done this for a long time, but the real core, no pun intended, of the storytelling aspect, I think is something that is so dramatically overlooked by real estate professionals today. And the final thing is having a really strong eye for remembering that perception is truth. Our job is to create a brand that makes a stranger feel confident in your abilities to help represent them in almost always the biggest purchase of their life. And so all of those things coalesced with my production experience and theater experience, I think makes me uniquely positioned to do this. I always say, when you need something done, hire a theater kid. And I stand by that to this day.
I love it. Well, I think the two things that I get from that is the storytelling component, because I do think that people respond and react to stories because they find themselves in the story in some way, right? So I think the storytelling component, but then I think the other thing about theater is the concept of evoking emotion, right? And that's also what you talked about is, having somebody feel something. You can say you're a $50 million producer, or you can create a story or a tagline or a brand that really kind of resonates because, again, people see themselves in the brand, right? In some fashion.
Correct. That's exactly right. And, I am, despite what maybe someone thinks, right? I'm not performative, meaning I am dramatic and I am, I guess I'm a natural performer, but the things that I say are not performative in nature in terms of incorrect or a lie or misleading. And, I'm no fool. In sales, it is about making your potential client feel something, right? And so I have zero apologies about being really vulnerable, even with my prospective clients who I've never met, right? There are some people I get on calls with that I vibe with that feel like a good fit. There are some that don't. And there's nothing wrong with either. That doesn't make them good or bad. But, I do say at the end of most of my calls of people that I'm inviting to sit on my private roster, the fact that I realize that this is bigger than business. This is bigger than real estate. This is quite literally their legacy, right? It's their ability to pay for the life that they deserve. It's the future of their children. And again, is that dramatic? Sure. But it's also the truth. And being able to drop in and be vulnerable with your even potential client, I have found to be really, 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 successful in terms of an ability to establish a connection, build that relationship, and consequently get them to the other side of the closing table.
Yeah, because I think sometimes, and I've had obviously the opportunity to be working with you, and we sometimes second guess ourselves, or there's a vulnerability of like, am I really, this legit, let's say, and so what I've appreciated is if any of you have not had the opportunity to meet with Tyler, but you are fast, you're quick, you stay on point, but you're also very real about everything. And so I like that because I feel like there's no room for small talk. It's kind of just getting to the gist of stuff fast. And it's great because I think what you also have done in my own experience is you forced me to move faster and kind of get out of my own way. And I think for so many of us, that's the biggest hurdle when it comes to our brand and growing our business is we kind of get into our own headspace. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. My favorite thing to say is done is better than perfect. Perfection doesn't exist. And I am, again, a theater kid and the king of efficiency, right? I get women in and out of dresses in 18 seconds on stage, right? So like your 18-hour struggle with posting a reel because you're scared about what someone is going to think is child's play to me. And I also am like really honest. I will be the first to look Amy in the eyes and say, that is not flattering. Let's please get rid of it. And she trusts me and isn't offended by that. And on the opposite, trust me when I say that looks great, Amy, post it. right? And guess what? We post it and the world keeps spinning and no one cares.
Life goes on.
Goal, right? That's
Yeah.
the goal. How can we start getting out of our own ways and starting executing? I am, and this is a huge fault of mine, I am so impatient, right? I'm like, why are you continuing to talk? Like, I've already approved it. Can we please move on? Right? Because time is money, right? Time is so precious. And I'm no fool. Like, anyone listening who goes to therapy, right? At least in New York City, therapists are very expensive. And I know this woman charges me $4 a minute. Okay. So I'm like, no small talk, start treating me. Let's go. Right. And I look at the same way with my clients. Like, I'm not spending 15 minutes talking about their weekend because that's 15 minutes of billable time. I'm here to get results. And I hope, and I think the majority of my clients certainly appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about that. You've worked with hundreds of agents, and I want your take on what do the best personal brands have in common?
So the best personal brands have one thing in common, and it's really simple. Okay. It is authenticity and you. Okay. Personal brand cannot exist without you being in front of the brand. Okay. This isn't egocentric. This isn't braggadocious. This isn't being prideful. This is about you saying, I am the only differentiator in my business than the other million real estate agents who claim they can do what I do. Okay. There are there are many strategists on this earth, okay? But there is only one Tyler, and that's not better or worse. It's just different, right? And so, number one, you have to be in front of your brand. Being scared of being seen, you should not be in real estate, right? Because that is the only thing that is your calling card. And the secondary, I don't want to say in terms of importance, but the foundation of you being in front of the brand is being authentic, right? And authenticity is this buzzword and it's used all the time. And me saying, Amy, go be authentic isn't helpful. You're like, got it, Tyler, but I don't know what you mean by that. Right. And so my goal is to really first identify what is authentic to the client, then give them really clear framework in terms of how do we present that to the public. And then the third and hardest part is getting them to do it, present it to the world, and show them time and time again that authenticity is the thing that drives commerce more than your experience. We know this to be statistically true for McKinsey. This isn't my opinion. We know that 92% of consumers want to work with someone they deem authentic versus inauthentic. That is hard-hitting scientific data. So if you are showing up on social media trying to play the part of real estate agent or play the part of lender or play the part of CEO versus just being authentically who you are, you've already failed. So those are the two most major things when we deal with personal brand and identifying those who are successful at it.
I appreciate that so much because when Kevin and I were doing our show, prior, what we started realizing is the more that we would make mistakes, the bloopers, the funny pieces were what people were really kind of craving from getting to know us better, right? So I agree and I appreciate as far as authenticity, but it's hard. It's always a work in progress because we're humans and we can't help but being worried about being judged, right? So I know right now I'm a true work in progress for you as well. So authenticity is what all these great brands have in common. What do you see doesn't work, or what are the most common branding mistakes you're seeing right now?
So that's a very large question. I would say that if I had to identify it, it is thinking you're the exception. Let me explain what I mean. We go to, let's say, any luxury service provider on earth, think Gucci. Okay. Gucci's a very popular household name of luxury goods. Okay. You go there and you would never purchase from Gucci if they had three different logos. Their Instagram looked like a kindergartner put it together. Okay. Their receipts were handwritten. Their email marketing came with red and green Comic Sans font. Okay. Their visuals were shot by you on your iPhone, right? You would never buy there, right? But we, as business owners, think we're the exception. Like, who really wants to give you the $8 million top 1% listing if you have four different logos? If your Instagram looks like it's curated by a rabid raccoon, right? The thing that I find so interesting is I hear the number one need of agents, or the desire or goal, is to make more money, to increase their price point, to go to the next, let's say, tier in sales. But the way they're presenting is that of a trash man, right? Now, what's good news about this? Well, I didn't talk about ability. I didn't talk about how good or bad you are at your job. That's something I can't affect. Okay. The things that I'm talking about, branding, personal brand, delegation, can be fixed in 60 days, right? So it is interesting that I work with really fantastic producers, right? People oftentimes in the 9-figure mark in terms of their annual production. Imagine what would happen if they had a really strong brand to go along with that. That's my dream client. The client who is already producing with everything going against them in terms of brand, we can
Right.
really affect change. But that is what I would say most people are doing incorrectly. They think they're the exception. I, as a consumer, expect my steakhouse to feel elevated and refined and put together, because if I am spending $300 on a steak, I better have a good experience. Yet when I am rightfully so getting a commission for $90,000 on my $3 million listing, I think it's appropriate to show up like a kindergartner, right? It is setting expectations that you are not the exception, and then taking really, I'll say, and taking really clear and defined action to change it.
I like that because I've talked to so many agents that, and I say the unfortunate thing is that before you even open your mouth to have a conversation with somebody, they're already judging you. They've already Googled you. They're looking at what you're wearing. And that sounds very shallow, but they're trying to make a decision on if you, the person in front of them, are going to check all the boxes, right? And so it is, as much as we don't want to always feel that, it is the entire package. And what I also like that you're saying is that if you're not good at it and you're not good at certain parts of it, then get help, right? I think that's the other thing is I know where I was at when it came to my social media. I'm still kind of struggling with that, right? I still really have to push myself to want to post. And, we laugh all the time because I'm like, should I really do something family or personal? And you're like, yes, please. But I just think it takes, it's like a muscle, right? Or it's like working out. It is really kind of that commitment to wanting to develop a brand that is going to last and is consistent, right? And that's not easy, and it doesn't happen overnight.
Bingo. That's exactly it. I always say that, I obviously didn't coin this phrase. You've heard it 50 times a day, but like, if time is money and I am not a professional videographer, why am I going to spend 4 hours trying to put something together that looks like trash? I understand that, there is expense associated with some of these things, but oftentimes I hear, Tyler, I don't have the business to incur the expense. And I say, you don't have the business because you refuse to incur the expense. And I know that's a catch-22, and I know it's difficult, but when I tell you my life is dedicated exclusively to doing the thing that I'm good at, which is strategizing and coaching clients and traveling and speaking, right? That is what I do. Everything else, I hire someone whose thing is that. And I have very limited stress in my life because of it. And I have a really solid brand that only reflects positively on me, right? People think Tyler's logo is good, Tyler's website is good, Tyler's social is good. I didn't do any of that, right? And that is where we really have to start to recognize that we can't be everything to everyone.
And figure out what your lane is, where should you be, and then build great people around you, right?
Bingo.
To basically make you look like $1 million. So let me ask you this, a lot of people struggle with, I think, striking that right balance between creating engaging content and being true to themselves. Are there any thoughts or tips on that? And also even just the balance of professional versus personal when they're trying to put themselves out there on social?
Yeah. So let's start with professional versus personal. Okay. Again, I always am the first to be like, this is my opinion, Amy. How many times have I emailed you and been like, I'm so nervous to tell you this, but I like logo 4 better. Like, there is no science to that. That is just my opinion. That is not right. That is not wrong. But I always make sure I'm really clear when I'm talking about fact, data, science. Okay. What I'm about to tell you is data, fact, science. And it's this: people who find you accessible and relatable are much more likely to transact with you. Okay. We know this to be factually accurate. So, you as a real estate agent getting on social and only talking about what you just sold or just listed, I, as someone who's not looking to buy or sell in your market, find you not approachable, not relatable. And I have zero, frankly, desire to follow you. Why? Because what you're providing is not something I want. Right? Versus you showcasing, I'm Amy Corr. I am a mom. I love shopping. I have a really beautiful secondary home that I go and visit and relax. Okay. I, as someone who have kids potentially, or I love shopping, or I have a home on the same lake, right? Instantly find myself much more likely to transact with you. A mom is much more likely to transact with a mom. A dad is much more likely to transact with a dad. As a whiskey lover, I'm much more likely to transact with a whiskey lover, right? Those things we know scientifically to be true, but if you don't showcase those things out of fear, out of saying, well, real estate agents should not do that, right? We are cutting ourselves off from so much potential business exclusively out of our ability to build relationships. So, personal content, I always say at least 50%. Personal content and Amy shopping is going to recruit more agents to her brokerage than her talking about her methodology or work experience. No one cares, right? They want to hang out with someone 40 hours a week. And so leveraging that is super, super important.
Yeah, I love it. It's true. I mean, when I'm on and I'm going through Instagram or wherever it is, I find myself captured in the oddest places. And it's because it's making me laugh or it's something that I'm relating to in the moment. And so I think that's just a constant reminder we have to give ourselves in this space, because I do think we, as agents, can get caught up in the, hey, this is what I just transacted, which there's a spot for it. But to your point, people are going to really connect with the relationship side of someone. So let me ask you this wrap up question before we go into some fun rapid fire. I'm an agent, kind of newer to the business. I'm thinking about my brand. Two things. Where does this person, just give them two ideas of the first two things they should be thinking about as they're going down that path?
Absolutely. The first thing is visual identity. What does my brand look like? That is most important, because before words come out of your mouth, to your point, someone is judging you. And I don't mean that negatively. It's not something we should fear. You do it every day, Amy. I do it every day. When we're looking at restaurants online, we're judging the quality of the food based on a photo, which we know makes no logical sense, yet we do it every day. Every single customer is doing that to you. So, visual identity. What does the brand look like and feel like? Okay. That reduces so much overwhelm, because never have I ever gone to my team and said, what does the newsletter look like this week? What does our billboard look like? What does this magazine advertisement look like? What does our social media post look like? It's defined because we have a visual identity. Tiffany's blue is always Tiffany's blue. They're never sending a green magazine, and the designers have not lost an ounce of sleep of what color their blue they're using this week. Okay. The second thing leans into this more amorphous, larger question surrounding what does the brand, AKA you, sound like, and what is the tone? And this really leans into authenticity. Okay. My brand, my tone is very different than another strategist. That's not good. That's not bad, right? But I am unapologetic in terms of my social content, in terms of how outspoken I am about the things I believe. Okay. And when you hear me in person, when you're my best friend and we're just sitting on the couch drinking wine, when I'm meeting a new client, when I'm in a billionaire boardroom, when I'm speaking on stage, you get the same version of Tyler. And anyone who's met me can attest that this Tyler is the Tyler that's drinking with Amy. That's the Tyler that's on this podcast. That this is the Tyler that's interviewing to work with Amy. Okay. And I am always setting expectations from the beginning by my tone. This is what you can expect, and this is what you're getting. And I typically try my best to deliver on the tone that I set. So, visual identity, what we call positioning or tone identity. And then from there, those things inform the rest of your marketing decisions. We have to have the website. We have to have a strong and consistent social presence, right? All of those things sit on top of the foundation of what the brand looks like and what it sounds like and what it stands for.
Love it. Love it. That's great. Great ideas. Great place to start, because I think a lot of times people struggle. All right. This is fun. we're going to get ready for a little fun. This is our rapid fire portion of our time together. And so I'm going to ask you whether you post or pass, okay, for some of these questions here. First one, a post or pass, just listed and just sold photos.
Absolutely pass. No questions asked. Get out of the industry if that's your idea of social content.
Okay. Testimonial, graphics, or videos.
Pass. Absolutely. We don't care what Sarah thought about your business. Of course, you're only going to post 5-star reviews. Instead, tell us the narrative about the transaction.
Love it. All right. A day in the life vlog.
I love this. Post. Why? Because we want to see what you're doing in the day in the life. We want access.
All right. Posting a quote of something you said.
It depends how you do it. So I'm going to pass if it's a Canva graphic. I'm going to post if you're talking about it in a reel.
Okay. And then using trending audio, like a Taylor Swift song.
I love using trending audio. The only thing that you have to be careful of is you can't boost the content. So if you want to get seen by more and more people, you're putting $20, $30, $40 behind your post. You can't use trending audio, but trending and topical content is so important to remain relevant. So I think it's a healthy mix.
And sometimes if you get that right audio, that can help your reel or your post perform better, right? Because sometimes
Absolutely.
you're looking for, or if somebody has a post they look at, doesn't Instagram or the algorithm start pushing the same music kind of up to the top of your list?
Bingo.
All that data.
Topical content. Yeah, exactly right.
All right. All right. Now we've got real talk rapid fire. Are you ready for this one?
I'm ready.
Okay. What's your biggest social media ick right now?
Oh my gosh, 5,000 hashtags. I hate it. Like, why? It just makes you look desperate, and desperate is not sellable or dateable. So like, I'm deeply disinterested.
Okay, so hashtags. Let me ask you this really quick. How many should you put on average on a quote on a post? Like, if you say too many, what is too many?
I'm going to blow your mind, Amy Corr, and I'm going to make people rethink their entire lives. The answer is 0. We don't need a hashtag in today's AI-driven world. The most recent white papers came out from Instagram. It says they are futile, quote unquote. You can use maybe 3, but they're not categorizing your content the same way they used to because AI already knows what's happening on the page. It just makes you look out of touch and desperate. In my unofficial, non-strategic opinion, don't use them.
Yay, exciting news, people. No more hashtags. Straight from Tyler. All right. What type of content do you see driving the most engagement?
Authentic, non-real estate related content, something that is vulnerable, something that showcases access to your life.
And is there a time? Like, is it 30 seconds? Do you keep it short? Does that really matter? Or is it just how engaging it is?
It absolutely matters. The average time that someone is on a reel is less than 1 second. So we have to hook them at the very beginning. And the average reel should sit under 30 seconds. Look, if you're 30 to 60 seconds, we're not losing business because of it, but short and sweet because of people's attention spans.
All right. What's the most outrageous idea a client has had when it comes to branding? This is the G-rated program, by the way.
Yes, I was being on my best behavior. One of my clients is a very famous CEO, and he wanted to create an entire Martha Stewart-esque cooking show with full-scale production about his love of using the crock pot. And we did it, and it was fantastic.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I need to find that somewhere. What is a brand campaign you've seen recently that you love?
I love anything that Wendy's does. Okay. Wendy's is like the king or queen, I should say, okay, of having a unique brand voice. On Twitter, on their socials, they have no qualms like trashing the competition. And I'm not saying that's advice for real estate agents, but like their point of view is so strong. And I just love the fact that they're unapologetic there.
Wow. Authenticity in its greatest form, right? Yeah. If your personal brand had a theme song, what would it be?
Probably like something like either Shut Up and Dance With Me by Walk the Moon, because like I'm always bringing the energy, or Defying Gravity, because like at my heart, I am just like a token musical theater gay. So like both are relevant in my life.
I love it. All right. What's more dramatic, real estate agents or Broadway performers?
Absolutely real estate agents. I'm like, there is no question. hands down, real estate agents are the most dramatic people I have ever met in my life.
Okay, so we've got the real scoop straight from Tyler that we are more dramatic than people on Broadway.
Absolutely.
All right. I believe it. I've seen it. Tyler, this has been so much fun. I've loved spending time with you. I know we see each other every other week, but this has been great. It's been an awesome opportunity to learn more about how you help agents really develop and cultivate a clear brand, allow them to become authentic. So thanks for your time via Zoom, straight out of New York City. And I'll look forward to seeing you, I think, next week.
Yeah, can't wait. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Corr Values, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.